The number one thing that feedback or coaching should be is concise. Never once in the history of humanity has somebody read a 5-page email and said, "Oh, now I see, I was wrong. You are right." We've got a great framework for this that is called CLEAR. Make your feedback clear. Sometimes people call this having a clearing conversation because and CLEAR is just a super simple acronym to help you remember, okay, how should you give feedback? And if you follow this acronym, you're going to be doing really good. Okay, so the C stands for concise. The number one thing that feedback or coaching should be is concise. Shorter is better. Okay? If you're typing out an email that's 5 pages long, that ain't it, sweetheart. Like, that ain't it. That's not, never once in the history of humanity has somebody read a 5-page email and said, "Oh, now I see, I was wrong. You are right." Right? Like, it's not how it happens. It's got to be short. It's got to be concise. Shorter is better on this. If it needs a long explanation, you're doing it wrong. You know, you waited too long. And so break it apart. Just do it short. And address one issue at a time. That's a safe bet. No dumping. All right? You don't want to dump 1,000 things on somebody. The L is logical. Emotions are not welcome at a feedback party. Emotions are not welcome here. So, no name calling, no profanity, no yelling. If you're doing name calling or profanity or yelling, you're doing it wrong. That means you're not giving feedback. Feedback isn't loud. Feedback is very even keeled. It's very straightforward. So no name calling. The other thing is to do it when you're doing it logically. You celebrate people in public, critique them in private. One reason why is it's hard for them to have a logical response if they're in front of a group of people. So even if you deliver very logical feedback, if a bunch of people are copied on the email, it's one of the worst things you can do for your relationship. It is one of the most damaging things to your trust as a leader is when it's like, if you're giving feedback, there's no reason to, because it's not about making them wrong. It's not about making them look bad. It's not about pushing them down. It's about helping them get better, of which that is not anybody else's concern. Right? So you celebrate in public, but you critique in private, because there's simply no reason or advantage to lumping in a bunch of people. And they'll have an emotional response whether they do it in front of you or not, but it'll be very emotional if you do it in front of other people. So do it in private. This is logical. Here's one that I am the captain of screwing up, specifically in my marriage. Never give feedback to someone in response to them giving feedback to you. This is not something that I have historically been good about practicing. Like, this is one that it's like, when someone gives me feedback, my immediate response is, okay, well, yeah, that might be true, but let me tell you about you. That never goes well. Like, it never goes well. It's never once worked out, right? So it's like, if that's you, like, hopefully that's not y'all, but that is me, is like, delivering feedback in response to feedback is a way of deflecting, right? That is a mechanism of deflection. We just got to learn to be humble, right? And just receive it and take it. And yeah, like, sometimes it hurts. But if you're married to someone who also does this, or you're coached by someone, or your manager is someone who does this, it won't be such a big deal. Right? You're not having blowout fights about stuff, because it's just like, hey, by the way, don't forget that after you rinse the spoons, you need to turn them upside down so that water doesn't sit in them and rust, right? Like little things like that. It's just like coaching. You're giving feedback. It's not criticism. So make sure it's logical, concise, logical. E, explicit. The more specific, the more terrific. Cite specific examples. Relatedly, do not speak in generalizations. Don't say, you always are mean. You always are late. You always yell. You never, consider other people's feelings. It's virtually impossible for somebody to own that feedback because it's not true. Like it inherently, when you're giving it, it's not true. So what you want to say instead is, yesterday, this happened, right? And you're not, again, it's like it's not 1,000 examples that we're all doing at once. We're doing it in real time, right? Like if a coach, if it's like a basketball team, right? And they're giving them instruction, when he's over there, make the pass, right? You missed the pass. You should have looked for that passing lane. It's very specific. So it's not an always, you never. You're just not going to win with that. You're not going to win with that. Relatedly, okay, so the A is actionable. Point out which behavior was unacceptable, right? When you did this, you should have done this instead. But just to say you're a liar, like that isn't, first of all, it's not super actionable because it's not logical and it's not explicit. Right? I want to be able to say, hey, you told me you would have me the report on Tuesday. It's Thursday and you haven't sent the report. I need you to send me the report when you say you're going to, because I need it to do these other things. That's actionable. That's a behavior. It's not a character trait. When we coach, we're coaching on behaviors and actions. And as a result, we will be kind of shaping character. Character conversations are a little bit different, okay? But if you do this, if you catch behaviors and you give people, it never gets to be a big deal. And so you're kind of like course correcting along the way. In terms of actionable, don't just point out what they did wrong. You have to tell them what your preferred behavior is. Hey, when you talk to me, it would help me if you asked me something that you want me to do versus tell me what you want to do. That's like coaching somebody on their communication to you. It's like, do you think you would be open to asking me versus telling me? That would help me. That's specific and it's actionable. And ask if they need additional training to know how to do what you're asking them to do. So never overlook that idea that a lot of times, if they're not doing something, they might not know how to do it. So this forces you also, sometimes that's your fault. Like sometimes you haven't actually trained the person how to do it because you're busy and you're like, you don't have time to stop and slow down. And then they do it wrong. And it's like, ask them if they know how to do it. It may be as simple as that. All right. So concise, logical, explicit, actionable. And then the R is real time. Do not wait for a formal review to like dump a bunch of stuff on somebody. Do it in real time. The more time that passes between the incident and the feedback, the less effective the coaching will be. It also erodes trust because it makes me as the receiver feel like you've been counting my mistakes for a long time and not sharing them with me. That is really hard because I'm like, well, how long have you been bottling this up? Like, why haven't you told me? And you know, how is this, you know, there's like this gap in our relationship I didn't even know was there. And like, we should have enough mutual respect and trust that it's like, hey, you know, it's not about me being right. It's about you being better. Really important. The sooner you share your feedback, the sooner you see a change in behavior. So that's another really important thing. But y'all, feedback is a gift.